Hi, my name is Winsley, and welcome to this week's video on Age of Wonders Planetfall. This week we're going to be basically doing a follow-up to my last video on Star Kings. We did a video 2 weeks ago talking about everything we knew about Star Kings. We talked about all the units, the stream, and I think a dev diary. There may not have been a dev diary at that point. And yeah, I'm joined by Sinsling and Orange Lex from the multiplayer games. You guys want to say hi?
Howdy.
Yo.
Sorry, I couldn't do one of these videos with you all last week. I was like really I don't know. I guess taken over by Necroids. I just couldn't take myself away from that game, the new Stellaris species pack. Have either of you played it or heard about it?
I've heard about it. Stellaris has been on my to come back to list for a while. I'm probably about 2-3 expansions behind, so I'll get there.
Yeah. Well,
I've
go for it, Sinsling.
kind of messed with it, but I wasn't particularly attracted to the game mechanics when I tried it, so I passed up on it.
Yeah, well, I'll just say I've been enjoying it a lot, and it's almost out of my system. I'm doing some multiplayers on the weekend. If people are interested in watching that type of stuff, I'll do that on Sundays and play multiplayer Planetfall with you all on Saturdays. I'm really looking forward to this weekend's one, the finale. But let's start talking about the Star King stuff. Basically, everything that we found out since the last video. We've had 3 dev diaries and 2 streams. I've got a couple notes on the dev diaries and a lot of screenshots that we're gonna go through on just like chronological order for the streams later on. So the first dev diary was basically an overview of the Oathbound. It talks a lot about the lore of them and their special mechanics. We've seen a lot of this in stream. I'm sure people who are familiar with my channel who've seen the other videos know basically a lot about how there's 2 classes. We have the main Oathbound and then the Seers. And their
The
abilities,
Paladins and the Seers.
Their abilities are really important. Basically, they help you control the battlefield, right?
Yeah, so my opinion so far, and this is from watching the streams and Tombles a lot, and again, I'm sure once people get their hands on it, they'll prove otherwise, but it really seems like Oathbound are balanced around having a lot of really powerful but single unit targeted abilities. So they depend on this precognition and premonition to make their own units really strong. And then they throw out some of these other atrophy and fatalism, I think it's called, but single target debuffs, which is something that it's to an extent anyways that no one else really has, and then also balanced around they're all melee.
They have some interesting AoEs that you have access to, and what I really like is they kind of have like that enforcer mechanic, which helps them shield the other units around them. I think that's around here at the top. There's a couple
lot of
units
their
like
units
that.
have a special defense mode.
Yeah, it makes it so that those guys can tank a lot, and then the Seers can help like make it so the enemies do less damage or no damage, or your guys get critical hits with extra damage on top. It seems super powerful. I'm really interested to see how Sinsling's able to make use of all these hero skills. I really don't know what all of them do though, right? At this point.
The first thing I'm going to try and break is whatever that precognition is. I don't see how it can be balanced that you just straight up ignore an attack.
Oh,
But
you think that's worse? No, it's got to be Providence. Guaranteed crits is the broken part.
I mean, I don't know.
Just
Just
consistent
negating an
unit,
attack is pretty huge. So
not if the other guy has any AoE, because just any random chip damage will take it, right? So if you just look at precognition as, gain 10 HP, yeah, that's pretty good, but it's not the end of the world. Whereas Providence lets you take out units quicker, and I mean, in my opinion, anyways, fights are all about action economy. So if you can
it looked like Tom was using that getting criticals to really mess things up, get kills, and then using the martial tradition to hit another unit with it.
So I think if you if you get the right secret tech, something like initiates, I think are gonna
Ooh,
that's all
automatic
gonna work
crit
really well with these.
malignators.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Side number in
with
general seems
catatonic and stun or whatever.
you're going all out on the offense, but that's usually worth doing. But yeah, I think Providence. If I'm gonna pick one, it's that one.
hmm Well, I think one of the things you said in the stream more recently is they, as powerful as they look on paper, there's things that rein them in. There's counters to them. Like I think they're really really weak to arc damage. So if they're fighting assembly, they're in a lot of trouble.
Well, and they are super duper melee.
Yes, they'll probably struggle with snipers a little bit.
I mean, I guess their support
Yeah.
units are ranged, but they have support unit damage. I don't know.
hmm
And anyways, you were saying about the hero skills. We think we've only seen a couple of them.
Trailblazer, intuitive strikes, and yeah, this field repair droid, as far as I know. I don't think we've seen any of the others.
Just looking at Overload Power Co, and I am imagining wonderful options of what that might be at 5 points, no less.
Do you think it's gonna be an explosion? You're gonna kill your robot.
I mean, you might as well. Field repair droid means you get it back for nothing.
Yeah, I could see some synergy there. If not, they should consider doing that because that sounds really, really fun. There's these Lord skills which we did talk a little bit about last time, and I have some screenshots of what they look like once they reach the higher levels. I think the theory that we had in the last one about how there has to be something that comes after this, some extra, uh, was confirmed. We saw that in one of the streams. I think the last one actually.
Yeah, it'll be pretty cool figuring out how those work and stuff. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like whether or not the food one's worth taking because it seems kind of shit to waste skill points on a food giving skill, but I wonder. I mean, it
think
could
it's
help
going to
you
be too
accelerate.
slow in 1v1, but it might be okay in bigger games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
same-
thinking like because they have that new sector type. I have to wonder if there's a way you can get them to work together to like really accelerate a colony.
Yeah. Throw it on your capital with the food central building and a food sector. That's going real fast.
I think yeah, those residential sectors will be pretty powerful at first, and they may need to see some rebalancing because just looking at
Think
like
so?
some of the details, it seems super powerful. I mean, if you can get a city to that point, maybe that's the whole point. It's like a really big reward for getting a big city with that many residential sectors. But yeah, no,
Seems
it
super late game to me.
depends if you can get the tech for it early enough. I don't know. It may be worth investing in because the Amazon get like free animals and other fancy
Oh, well,
things.
that's not the sector. Well, it's the building.
I think so. It comes with
And
it,
then the
kind of.
building won't upgrade unless you get the sectors, I think, right?
Yeah, something along those lines. They kind of synergize really well. But like the Oathbound one gave happiness as well as research, and that meant you could wait a little longer to research happiness buildings. So seems pretty good.
Oh yeah, the buildings I think are okay. It's specifically the residential sector that I'm a little skeptical about in multiplayer. I think it's just too slow to pay off.
I may have
Because it's what, +1 resource per pop or something? Which I haven't done any math on when that's better than building any other sector, right? Because if you're building a default food production, energy, whatever, you get some raw resources from just building the sector, which this doesn't give you.
Yeah, I love the
And
idea
you're
of
going to run
actually
out of pop
crunching
slots
that.
as well if you go residential really early.
That would be a
Maybe
really
not.
fun video.
Yeah, but I'd have to do math. I don't want to do math.
Not yet.
Not today, certainly. But
I think.
Recruit Mr. No for the math.
Yeah, Mr. No.
no, but the
competition.
buildings look like they're good, right? Because you're getting 2 slots, and if nothing else, your average slot without any sector improvements is 5 of a resource. So it looks roughly like, assuming all the yellow buildings are balanced equivalently, each slot is worth almost 2 people.
Yeah.
So I think happiness might just be +2 happiness for a normal slot. I don't recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I know that Tom mentioned in one of the streams that Assembly get Cosmite, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Right. Assembly get Cosmite and Amazon get free animals. I wonder what Syndicate get. I thought they'd get influence. Maybe they do get influence.
Yeah, we don't know that they don't. It seems thematic for them. And
I
if you
mean, their
look at
starting
everyone,
bonus is extra influence, so it's very possible that they might lean really heavy into that. That'd be pretty cool.
So yeah, just getting back to these units. We haven't seen the Diviner in action. It seems pretty cool. It's got an AOE
we haven't seen the
attack.
champion either, though, have we?
No, we haven't seen that. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. I was just reading this earlier. It seems like it can hand off its shield to another
Oh no,
unit.
not the T4, just the flying T3. I think Tombo's teched them, but I don't believe he's built one. Oh, but that wasn't in this dev diary. That was the first one. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got some augers, I think, in the stream, but
Yeah.
I don't think he's gone to diviners. Like if he did tech them, I missed that. But yeah, I think this unit's gonna be a really fun one to play around with. It kind of reminds me of the tactician for the Shakran. It's got some great
Yeah, it's a T3
skills.
support. Historically, T3 supports don't see a lot of play. They just are not enough payoff for too much tech investment.
Mm-hmm.
But they are very strong units if you can get them, and they are often militia heroes, right? Or heroic as militia, where once you get that high, they do a lot of work.
Yeah. I think we may see some of these tier 4s in our multiplayer games. Like in those one-on-ones, it takes too long. But I do
Yeah,
think that
but
some of
the
these skills are
fly
going to be
looks,
so good. Like just look at those base
looks pretty
stats:
dope.
4 armor, 5 shields. I don't know. That seems pretty cool. Come on,
And
Sinsling, rush it. You know you want to.
Oh man, I can try, but Russian T4s is a rough sell.
racial T4s even. It takes you
Yeah, I mean the
25
secret tech
turns at
ones,
least to
sure, but the racial T4s are just they cost so much tech.
Mhm.
and you don't get anything that helps you on the way. No mods, no ops, nothing.
Well, who knows? It could be a reward for an anomaly or something. If that's the case, then you get it. I could see that. Them wanting people to play around with it, making it easier to get. Have we seen the marquee at all?
No,
No, not in the stream.
I don't think Tombles has done one yet. He's done a hero in the default warlord. He's done a hero in the I can't think of the name of the damn unit. For Promethean, the
Purifier.
yeah, he's got a purifier guy.
Mm-hmm.
And his third hero, I don't know what he put his third hero in.
I will say it is
Warden?
pretty
A
damn
Warden.
cool that they have like a warlord variant of the purifier, like a robot variant of a
Yeah.
secret tech.
They've probably got one for a lot of different ones. I think they showed that off a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like the Marquis is kind of like an APC reskin.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously a little more different than that, but it's got a cooldown heal. It's got, this battlefield wide minor buff.
An AoE attack. That seems like it could be good if you want to apply some stats effects. That could maybe get a lot of what's it called? Static
AoE
charge.
attack, which one's the default's an AoE?
It says right here, Marquis staff can launch a Volt Discharge an AoE
Oh,
arc attack. So I have to imagine it's not repeating. It's a 10 damage low attack, but it does an AoE.
okay. Yeah,
It's kind of
probably.
cool. And then yeah, this honors call is gonna help you do more damage with your other units, basically. It seems like one of the few big scary robots that doesn't do damage. It's more of a support than an attack. Butterfly effect actually haven't seen in the stream. It seems like it's pretty late tier stuff, so who knows?
Yeah, tier 7.
Yeah.
But fatalism on the entire battlefield, that's pretty cool.
Seems pretty powerful, right? Elevation, we saw a little bit of that in the streams. I liked what Tom said about how you want to like move one of your guys out of the stack if you want to specifically give that unit the elevation so that the operation targets them. I took a picture of it so I could kind of show off how that looks in case what I'm saying isn't clear.
Good,
somewhere
but it's
in here.
slow. I don't know how often you want to get rid of a prime rank T1 to get a generic T2. Now, the advantage here is you can pick what you're getting, right? That's what puts this over, say, the emergent spawn, right? From Kyoko. But the emergent is a lot worse unit than the aspirant is. From everything I can see, the aspirant's actually a very strong T1.
Yeah, it seems like it can do a lot of damage because it gets that against all odds thing. So the tier difference allows it to do more damage. So I think keeping them around protectors synergizes pretty well. They can be like the offense while the protector actually does the defending. And if you lose the offensive unit,
Protector
then,
can do plenty of damage. It's got what, 13 repeating?
Is that true? All right. Yeah, it's a protector, but it's also a fighter. It's a good fighter. Yeah, a lot of their big mech units are pretty good at the offense. It's just as that one marquee unit, I think that isn't so great at it. There is a way to make your seers better. We probably, I think we'll see a little bit of that in multiplayer because I think the seers are really neat and having
Tier
them.
9 doctrine though.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, tier 9. I didn't.
No,
I
that
mean,
is
I'll go
actually
for it.
Well, the seers don't seem to have a lot of damage, but that is a little bit better than what I'm used to seeing out of a doctrine, I think. There's not a lot of things that are plus 30% damage and a strong inflict.
Yeah, I think, well, somebody was saying they don't like entropic decay, probably Ninju. I think somebody was saying it's one of the weaker ones.
It's one of the weakest dots.
But yeah, if you've got
Probably not as
seers,
good as burning.
if you got a lot of them, then I think it could be okay. Their mechanic is kind of like to have one of them in the stack so that they can help your other guys level up a little bit more. But I think really investing into that entropy channel sounds really fun. And yeah, I think we can now go over to this one. There's stuff about the Grail that's less interesting to me than the apostates. I'm not sure if the Grail has that much to it at this point in time. It sounds like you go clear out a landmark, right?
I think we've seen much of it outside of the dev diary. I will say though that doctrine that it gives now that's just kind of silly. Your whole empire gets plus 100% food, and all units regain 8 hit points per turn.
But that's for single player. It's a single player bonus in a empire, right? And that I think. Am I wrong about this?
Grails can be in anything.
Is that true?
Because that's
It's not empire specific. I think you're thinking of what is it? The things
just
that
the
unlock
empires.
stuff in empires.
Yeah.
Okay, so that could really change actually how people play if there's a Grail on the planet.
I think this is something kind of like in a strategic map-wide scale anomaly is what my understanding was. Right, where you're getting a reward for doing stuff.
Yeah, the things in empires are called relics, and that's from the Dev Diary 67. They're not called grails, so.
Okay, I see. That's where the confusion's coming.
I'm not sure if grails are. Does it say in here if they're only in?
This is the quest. Let's go to the top.
It just says on the planet. I'm not seeing anything for Empire only.
It says it's coming with Star King, so I think you have to own the DLC at the very least to get the Grail.
Yeah, which means it's probably not built into the Empire mechanics at all, because that's coming with the patch.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Empire mechanic is going to be part of the free patch.
Okay, I see. Well, yeah, hopefully we'll get to see a little bit of that in the stream, but probably won't. I think that's something we'll have to wait until we actually get our hands on Star Kings to see more of. The
Well, and if
apostates.
it's like invasions, it might just come a little too slowly for it to be a big deal on the multiplayer side of things. Because even with invasions, if you set it to the absolute earliest you can get, it's like, what, turn 30, 35, 40, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
So in the small 1v1 games, you just won't see it. And in the bigger stuff, you plausibly could.
Right.
And if Grails are on the same time frame, same deal.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't seen the apostates in the stream, right?
I don't think so.
They seem pretty cool. Like you have the descriptions here that you can read. There's a lot of cool stuff. I think you said one of them was built off of, is it the Tyrant was built from the
Yes,
bodies of
if you read,
something?
if you like scroll down just a little bit more, right there, that second line of text underneath them.
Oh yeah. Reforged with the husk of the Chaos Witches. Of course, so they use their their witches to make their Tear
Okay,
Forge.
now I want to point out the most important thing on this page. If you scroll down to the bottom of this dev diary,
Mm-hmm.
keep going right there. Look at that. That looks like a hero equipment icon for a Blackguard Tyrant.
The Tier 4, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Which would be the only one in the game?
Well, unless you get something like that for the Tier 4 Oathbound unit.
I could have swore someone
I
in
think
the or someone in Discord, one of the devs said that you couldn't get
yeah.
Okay.
the
Well, that's
Oathbound one.
interesting then. That's really interesting. That this is the only exception that we know of, at least. I don't know. It feels
All
strange
of
to
our
have
humans
only
must
one
be,
Chaos
or
one.
all of our commanders must be too corrupt to equip the good paladin option.
It's too OP.
I'm sure that's just a balanced decision. A hero in a T4 vehicle is like just absolutely unkillable. Especially an Oathbound hero in a T4 vehicle.
Celestian, hopefully they
Right,
can.
that would be hilarious, combining a T4 unit with like all of their other stuff.
Yeah.
Like that battlefield repair thing.
Make melee good again.
Someday. I've thought melee was good since game release, and they keep buffing it, and I'm just so happy about it.
Yeah. No, I know. I think it's got its place, but it's just it's really tricky in multiplayer to not get in a situation where they're just getting kited around and around and around. At least I feel like I would get kited around and around and around by one of you. So yeah, next step diary.
Can we go up? I just want to look at the actual units again.
Yeah, because we just kind of skimmed over them quickly.
Yeah,
There's
so
the
the gimmick is that they do damage of a random channel.
yeah.
Probably doesn't matter very often. Although that actually is maybe a net nerf, depending on if that damage gets damage multipliers or not.
Why do you think that? I
You
don't
should.
understand why that
So
would be bad.
Because
if it's just +5 after the multipliers. So imagine you've got two units. One of them is, say, the protector that does 13 repeating arc damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you put a mod on it that's plus 20% damage, you get another 2.6 damage, rounded up to 3. It's 16 damage repeating. If you have this setup, and if that extra 20% damage only applies on the 8 entropy damage, then you only get an extra 2 damage, and you would only be 15 damage repeating, because it would be 8 plus 2 plus the 5.
Okay.
Is that making sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it just depends on how that adds in, if it's a flat 5 damage added in after the fact, or
Yeah,
if that 5 damage
it's
also
worse
gets
if it's
damage multipliers.
5 damage. It's better if it's split channel like Shakarn weaponry is, Shakarn Omni weapons.
Yeah.
Because if it's split channel, then you're gonna get rounding up twice.
Right. Okay. I like the sound of that. Opportunistic here, just at a glance, seems pretty nice. Immobilized.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. I don't know if it's
Seems like a
super
buffed up
scary.
flanker.
Yeah, it's flanker
Imagine
with
if Lancers
upside.
had that.
Maybe you can get a mod from clearing something out, like an anomaly, and you can.
We don't know what that secondary attack does. Innovation.
Use their range, innovation beams,
Oh,
reduce resistances to a random
random
channel.
damage channel.
That's interesting. It's not, doesn't sound that great, does it? But it's a lot of damage.
Yeah,
Only if it
unfortunately,
manages to
it's
match up with the random damage you deal in the attack.
It seems
right,
like a
because
fair
if you're
bit.
just reducing a random channel, that doesn't really help you if you can't guarantee that you can exploit it.
I mean, you can always, I guess, high roll that it would be, say, entropy. This would be the presumably these are mostly going to be AI stacks you fight against, right? So
Well, I am seeing here cruelty in this guy's description, which seems to indicate it's in the hero stack. Right? You get cruelty if your
That's
person has.
interesting.
So it seems like you can get them as
scroll
rewards.
up, scroll up though, because cruelty's not a stack buff. It's just a hero buff, right?
I
That's
think it
not a
applies
hero
to
though.
don't remember.
the units in the stack. I think no.
I don't
No,
remember how that
Pretty
works.
sure cruelty is only for the commander. When they get kills, they get morale.
Oh, they just faux spawned this at the beginning of the game somehow, just so that they could demonstrate it.
It's hot code. Yeah, I don't know. These guys have to be like the
Now,
tier
this
3s, the
unit is
diviners.
interesting. Just getting random debuffs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then also hitting 2 random enemies.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Random debuffs are always fun. Oh no, okay, so Channel Chaos will lower entropic resistance. That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Chaos Outbreak, that's the one.
these guys I
Reality
think
break.
are pretty difficult to take out. Unless you've got like specifically something that counters them. Maybe Oathbound counters them perfectly, or they counter Oathbound perfectly. What do you think?
How to approach these guys? I mean,
Do you think Oathbound would counter them, or they would counter Oathbound, or a little bit of both?
I don't think either side really is a hard counter to either other side. That's not making sense, but I don't really think there's a way to like hard counter these guys. Their primary unit's going to be that T2 melee.
Yeah.
But just in general, it looks like they're
bringing
decent.
an Overwatch wall would probably be best against them.
Yeah, and then as for the higher tier stuff, they're just good units, so you have to approach them as just good units. Like, I don't see anything here that's especially exploitable. But you can always beat the AI that's using good units if you also bought good units and mods and good tactics. So I don't think there's anything that's really screaming out exploit this. Maybe that they're mech units, but there's a ton of higher tier mech Marauder units.
Okay, I think now we can jump over to the next one, which has some interesting stuff about the planet traits and the secondary objectives, which we saw quite a bit of in the stream, so I don't think we really
Yeah,
need
I
to
think the
spend too much
details we
time
already
talking
knew.
about it.
Or maybe, yeah, we knew how this was all set up. There might be specific examples that are new that we didn't know about. But in principle, nothing here seems like you would not have expected it to show up once you understood what the general like idea behind the Galactic Empire was.
I forget where we heard it, but I think it was in our multiplayer with Avoaxel where they mentioned the void planets where you can't go over the void. It's kind of like lava,
Oh
but
yeah,
you're flying
sectors
units.
that no units can enter at all.
Yeah, so that's cool. We heard about that. That's not in here anywhere, I don't think, but it's a thing as far as we
He
know.
had also mentioned a failed planet trait that involved having growing void sectors that just slowly swallowed the whole planet, but how they had issues with it and had to take it out.
Sadness.
Yeah, that's too bad. That sounds pretty fun. Like, just
I
imagine
could
your
see how
city
it would
gets
just
devoured.
absolutely yeah, I don't think there'd be any way to code the AI to handle that at all. So
Well, and then you
It's
also have
true.
to account for what happens if you're voiding a sector that has stuff in it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
yeah,
Do your armies just vanish, and how do you prepare for that? How do you adjust for that? Yeah, it's one of those ideas that sounds
suck
really
it up
good,
and
but
get better.
yeah, to actually make it work, I'm sure, even aside from the technical challenges, it's probably not a fun gameplay loop.
Right. We could talk a little bit about the relics, but it's another one of those things where it was covered in the stream. It seems pretty straightforward. You earn these by clearing out the, I think, secondary or primary objectives will earn you these, and that allows you to get more bonuses in the games that you play with that empire.
Yeah,
Sounds kind of
the more
fun.
you play, the more of these you're gonna get, and the more of these you get, the more weird stuff you can bring along in your next fight, which is fun for
Yeah, the
single
more
player. There's all of these really great Marauder units that have just as many fun little abilities and quirks to them as any of the racial units, and normally you can't get them. So having a way to pick some of the ones that you find to be really entertaining and guarantee that if you want to play with like a misfortune or something,
Hmm. There was
that you can do that.
there was this stuff here at the bottom, which I found was pretty interesting. It actually says that the Grail configurations are able to give you, I think, a relic here. There are two unique kinds of relics that are gained through different means. The Grail configuration one, so it may be tied to the Empire mode. It maybe you can get it outside. I'm not sure if it's locked into one or the other at this point in time. And then there's this Emperor's Throne, which says once you complete the Oathbound campaign, you get this relic. I guess you just can't have it on any empire. Does that make sense to you guys? Is that how you're reading this?
well, I mean, it just looks
So
like it's one that you gain from completing the new story they're adding.
yeah, and again, I guess we don't necessarily know what all of those other relics do. Like I think Tomble showed off a few of them. Um, like the basic ones that are, hey, you can get units X, Y, and Z. But I don't remember if he showed off any of the later ones that might do something a little weirder.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then the last thing that I thought was really cool in this one, well, I guess there's two little things. They actually showed a little bit of the bonuses that your heroes get if you reuse them after clearing out a planet with them. They can get things like this that give them extra levels. If you take like veteran, it becomes better. It gives you a couple extra levels at the beginning of the game. But yeah, what I found really cool was the idea of modding potential. I guess I hadn't really considered that when we talked last about the Empire mode. And thinking about it, I think people like Tibbles will put a lot of time into making the end game after you've like cleared 6 or 7 planets. They'll give you like a really difficult planet that you can go kill all the apostates at and through a mod or something like that. So it's kind of like there's something you're building towards, and that's not necessarily built into the game. That's just something people can do with the tools that have been provided to people. What do you guys
Something
think?
that's been brought up in the Discord modding channel is that might be possible to add races to it. So I'll be really interested to see, if people will take their custom races and stuff and try to plug them into the Empire game mode and see how that works out.
Yeah, I like that idea. I'm gonna actually put that in my notes so when I post things that there's something about custom races mod. But yeah, I think now we can actually hop into the screenshots I got from the streams. So there was something about mini quests. So if you're doing these Empire mode maps every 10 or 15 turns, you're gonna get something. Let's zoom in a little bit. It's kind of hard to see. Is that better for you guys?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
So yeah, you can it's kind of like an NPC quest, but it gives you renown instead of influence, and then you can spend that to get units or mods or operations, whatever you decide to bring with you when you start up the map. There's
Yeah.
also, well, go for it. Anything you want to add?
It seems like a way where if the only way you could get renown was only from completing like the main planet objectives, that might not be enough to consistently use all your toys. So seems like a good idea to have this little
Yeah,
secondary option to get a nice steady stream of renown.
kind of suck if it was only you had the main objective and then it's like, oh well, your planet's done. You didn't get to buy any of your toys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that XP is not. I mean, I know he's not playing Xenoplague, so you're also gonna just be getting a slow, steady stream of experience with stuff that you weren't playing in every game. So if there's one particular race or secret tech you really hate,
You
eventually you're
don't have
still
to
gonna
play
get a
it to
little
level
bit.
it up.
Yeah, you're gonna get a slow amount of leveling for it.
Yeah.
How you know what? How would the Xenoplague unlock work? Like I know you can buy like you can buy units and stuff, but how does that work for Xenoplague? Because like, do you buy their spawning mechanic or what?
Oh
Maybe
boy.
you just buy the units outright. You can't build them. Maybe they just
Xenoplague,
skip
but
that
better.
step. I mean, yes and no. Like,
By
I don't think
Playboy.
Tombles has ever had a ton of renown at any given moment. It's probably gonna be around the same exchange rate as influence. So
You should try and
say
ask.
you can buy a unit every 5 to 10 turns, somewhere in there.
I think Sinsling, if he does complete the planet in the next stream, which I don't think is entirely impossible, you should ask him about that. And he's in between planets and be like, Xenoplay, can you just how do units work with that? I think he'd listen to you.
Maybe if I can get Nor to pay attention to me again and not catch the bad parts of what I'm saying.
Yeah, you just gotta cross your fingers. I like the backseat gaming and stuff. I find it very helpful and kind. I know not everybody feels the same. The next thing I want to point out here was they started off the stream by pointing out that now you can see a little bit more about your secondary effects on the mods. Like for example, the arc resistance one, the one in the middle, gives you a little shield. Gives you a little bit of shields, so it's got like a shield icon and a one underneath it. And then I think that's the Oath of Loyalty mod above it, which gives a little bit of armor. And now it's just a little bit easier for people to see that type of stuff. They also
Yeah, a couple
changed
UI tweaks.
the like the hero stuff. I think basically this stuff got bigger, and there's a little white outline around the neutral mobs so that they're easier to see. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, I think that actually that's been like a mod for a while from Tibbles. And it's one of those things you wouldn't notice when it's necessary. Like you won't notice it if it wasn't there, but when you put the two next to each other, you go, well, yeah, obviously this is way better.
Yeah, it's kind of like when they tweaked Overwatch, right? They made the icons, I think, twice as big as they used to be, maybe.
Mhm.
It's like,
Oh
yeah, you don't
god,
see it.
back when the melee Overwatch icon was like horrendously small, I
Yeah,
think it was.
yeah, that makes sense. I hope this beeping stops in the background. I might need a second to turn that thing off. No, there it goes. Okay, good. I don't know if you could hear that.
Yes, I could hear it.
Well, whatever. Things happen. I'm not gonna edit that out if I don't need to.
Moving on.
Exactly. What did I take? Yeah, that's just showing off the icons. We got a little look at the hero skill that has to do with precognition. If you have that and there's a doctrine that gives that, then you do extra damage on your abilities. I think that's the one that guarantees a crit, right?
No, precog is the damage prevention.
Prevention.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is probably weaker than you might expect, at least with the doctrine. So if you start out with 1 stack on your hero, that's great. That means its first attack will probably get the damage boost, but once you hit it, then that goes away. And so the only way you're going to consistently get that boost from that ability specifically is if you brought something along that gives you precognition.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's a couple units that do that. We know for sure. I think their Scout does, and I'm willing to bet at
And
least one of
the Diviner does.
Yeah, so at least one of the other
it has
does as well.
AoE precognition. I just want to point that out.
Seems pretty
The
good.
T3 has that.
Yeah.
So it's okay, but I understand why that's only a 2 skill point ability. It's not as consistent as you might think.
I think Tom put that on all of his guys. He never took attenuators. I kept trying to see what attenuators does, but he never would take it. So I guess it's the better option in general.
Well,
I'm really interested what
it's
attenuators does.
combos. You don't know if it's the better option in general.
Maybe he's just
Might be
hiding the better
that
one.
he defaults to. Doesn't always know.
We did see later on Trailblazer gives you fast movement, which is really, really good in these robots, which are all melee. So this will help you close the distance a lot better.
Ooh,
that's extremely good.
It's only 3 skill points.
While in a vehicle.
Yeah.
So like,
there's some other
vehicles in a flyer or a floater, and you've basically got a hover bike.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking it helps you keep up with your really mobile units. There's a lot of seers that float and fly, I think. And then
what about even like a truck?
Hero in a helicopter becomes meta.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm thinking truck because it's got range 7, high damage, single action.
I'm thinking more of the strategic stuff.
Yeah, but if you have a stack of 5 heroes floating around, you've already caused a problem.
I just mean that one hero that you can have run off and grab your anomalies. Whatnot.
Sure.
It's basically the hover bike play.
Yeah. Is that how you do it? I was wondering how you do it, Sinsling. You just send off a guy on a hover bike.
That's one of the ways to do it. I really don't make the effort to do the whole hunt down anomalies thing, but I mean it is an option. So
not to derail, but usually for me in anomalies, I actually don't mind having a whole stack along because you get the XP from them.
Yeah.
But I will only really do an anomaly if it's not especially out of my way to do it. But anyways, my sell-ins, we got to see all 3 of them. I think Tomble showed them all.
Yeah, I took pictures of I think the planter or the sprayer, and then the other one was highlighted in something.
Sprayer, planter, and fertilizer, I think.
Yeah, whatever came before this.
The very first Dev Diary, I think, showed one off. But
yeah,
they seem interesting. I think they had a inflict we hadn't seen before, fungal something.
Yeah, we didn't get to see this one in combat. We got to see the sprayer and the planter, I think, in combat, and both of them had some pretty nasty AoEs with some special status effects. I think, yeah, Tom said basically they have a lot of AoEs and they have very nasty status effects, so don't clump up against them. Even if you're Oathbound and it's all about, actually using those defensive bonuses for being nearby each other.
Sure.
You may not want to do that, and so he didn't do that when he was fighting against them.
And we have Plant Loot's defense mode coming back again, that's always fun.
I'm interested to see what those skills actually do. Like which one's repeating and which one's a single action. What exactly do they mean? Is it gonna like catatonic or insane somebody? I maybe worse. Who knows? Well, what else was there?
Tom didn't understand how retaliation worked.
Had to update the description because this stun doesn't last after they inflict it on themselves for the turn afterwards.
That actually makes sense because in Age of Wonders 3 there was something called Stun Shield. or static shield or something like that. It was an ability for the sorcerer class.
Mm-hmm.
The Wisp
And
had it, and I only know this because I had
it was broken.
my only experience with AoE 3 was having a tiny little wisp that just kept gaining levels and had 106 HP. Couldn't hurt anything to save its life, but it would stun lock everyone.
Right.
So yeah, someone tuned it down when they brought it forward into Planetfall, and apparently Tom didn't get that memo. Which isn't to say that Arc Retaliation isn't a great mod, because it is. It's an absolutely fantastic mod.
Yeah.
But it's not game breaking where it's sitting.
Yeah.
So
Interested to see if they tweaked anything else with it, because I think we found that the stun doesn't necessarily work properly.
I think Mr. Nose posted in one of the more recent bug reports or something that the range is wrong. Like, it's stunning fine, but I think back in Stegosaurus, they upped the range that Arc Retaliation worked at, and they only did it for the damage, and they forgot about the stun.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
what I'm
think that's been
remembering.
corrected yet.
It goes to 2 instead of 3 with the stun, which is unfortunate, but it also makes sense that that could get missed.
It's one of the changes that I absolutely love right there.
Yeah, this right here is massive. It makes getting animals so much easier, so much easier. But also playing Heriter, you can actually use the drained mechanic without manualing every little fight. You can get Desolate if you got the NPC faction for that. You just toggle that on and toggle all the other
You can
operations
also make
off.
sure that your AI favors actually useful operations, so you can force them to cast the stuff that you want them to cast.
Yeah, I'm not the guy that ever really watched auto combat, really. Does the AI have an issue with maybe not, let's not necessarily that they don't cast the mind control stuff, because I know that's true, but are they casting actually like bad choice of operations?
So I've noticed when playing bio races, the AI has this really horrible tendency to use biochemical maceration.
I mean,
And
that
it's
is a
not
good mod if you have bio
no,
damage on the field.
well, okay, here's the thing. There's not much bio damage, and there are other operations that would have provided more benefit through AoE staggering, or like actually keeping a unit
Yeah,
alive.
sure. I
So
mean,
it's just annoying when they throw away operation points and energy on.
yeah, if there's a couple examples. Just in general, though, I do want to clarify that I believe this is a difference of removing bad choices from the AI, but you still can't force it to actually cast the operations that you're restricting it to. So there are, I think, in some fights, the AI just won't use operations either because it thinks it doesn't have to, or I don't know.
Things
So
that's already dead.
I don't imagine this to fix all the problems of, your Amazon. Why didn't it mind control this damn strike?
Yeah.
And the answer might just be, well, even though you
The AI is
allowed it to
stupid.
do it, the AI just didn't.
With how much Tom loves the Amazon, I think he may have been pushing for a way to make that actually more reliable in auto combat. I hope they made it work, because I think that would really make Amazon a lot more fun to play, as well as a lot of the other options. It's not just the Inheritor or people with NPC Forgotten faction nearby, or those, or the Amazon. It's, I think, a lot of different strategies. But moving on, operations. We saw this launch healing banner operation. I don't think we've seen it in stream, but we got to see
No,
how it
although
works
isn't that the
basically.
same thing that the the M robot has, the floating one?
Oh, I could probably find him over here, marquee thingy.
Yeah, the Marquis. I think that's the same ability.
That would be interesting. Did I go past him? No, there he
No.
is. He's got Banner
Oh,
of
that's Banner
Justice,
of Justice,
and this
whereas
one
this is Banner of
is,
Healing.
Yeah, it's 15 HP, can be picked up, heals again. This one it's very similar, isn't it?
Well, the Banner of Justice is actually better because it's a status clear.
Okay. So it's
Um,
similar, but
Huh.
but you can't put it
slightly
wherever you
different.
want.
Cool. It's interesting that they're so similar yet slightly different. They probably have the same like HP and shields. That would make sense.
I'm guessing that they probably just standardized banners, period, for like, at least the defensive stats.
There may be like one that's super amazing and golden. With the loyalty on summons gives extra armor. That seems really cool because, like, you can't do that type of stuff with swarm shielding.
Yeah, that's not gonna be. I mean, this is specifically why I was shouting at Tom to grab the reverse engineer to see if it worked with that summon, because that is just absolutely hilarious.
I mean, you'd
You can.
expect it to. Like, there's no reason why it wouldn't. Storm Shield
I just
doesn't
find it
because you
funny
can't
that
summon another
you
critical
can
unit.
just bring a bunch of reverse engineers, throw out a bunch of constructs, and now you just have this armor ball walking around.
Yeah, just hope that you're not running into psionics or something to do psionic damage.
Or into AoEs.
Oof.
Even with a bunch of armor, AoEs might be a little bit of an issue.
I like this mod. This mod looks good to me. Providence, we were
That
just
mod
talking
is
about
good.
that one, right? This is the one that
Yeah, that's the auto crit. That is an extremely good mod.
Oh, that's a hero item.
Yep, it's the secondary. So if you don't have anything to put in there, then you
Oh,
might as
that's
well
the
throw this
secondary.
in.
Well, so
Range
then the one
7.
downside is usually you really want to have a weapon secondary on a vehicle
On a
hero.
vehicle for when you get popped out.
That's true.
And it's
Actually, I hadn't
also
thought about
competing
that.
against rocket launchers for that slot.
There
I
has to
mean,
be some hero skills that help with that whole like running out of a primary weapon situation, don't you think? Like you've got
haven't
a
been any
shotgun
so
in
far.
your.
I mean, we don't have any in the base game. Don't know if the Oathbound get any like that.
I'd love it. I mean, we still don't know a lot about the hero
I
skills.
guess technically, if you're playing Cynumbra, you've got something like Consuming Gaze.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I love consuming gaze for that.
But maybe if you're like, if it's your leader in a marquee or something, you're backline anyways, not expecting to take damage or deal damage. That's just a total net positive
Mm-hmm.
to have a secondary providence. Oh, if for some crazy reason you're Oathbound that's, I don't know, afraid of vehicles,
Yeah.
and you found some really good high tier
You've
weapon.
got Festivity. But in that case, why are you even providencing someone else? You should just be killing everyone.
True.
Because you have a trance sniper as well. No, I don't know. You got 2 festivities. I don't know. We talked a little bit about the residential sector stuff earlier. When you get this to its final level, it gives you some really nice stuff. It looks like it's going to be hard to do, but worth doing if you can get a city to that size.
Yeah, I'm not expecting to ever see that level 3 in practice in any game I would ever play. The level 2 seems more doable.
Yeah.
But in general, I think those buildings, whenever I look at them, I'm gonna be doing it from the approach of, is the tier 1 good enough to justify building it?
What if we do a MP with no colonizer mode? Then maybe?
Then someone rushes you and you die.
Yeah, that sounds more likely. Um, what's next here? The next stream, that's what's next. Status effects resistance is now displayed. I love that the status effects resistance was 15 when I think it should be 6 for heroes.
Oh yeah, Tumble said something about that. Seems like something that I should have like internalized a long time ago. Like someone should have known that, but everyone must have just assumed that was intended.
Yeah,
That heroes were super low chance.
That's what I assumed. I was like, it just makes sense. Why would they be easy to put status effects on? But
Well,
no.
and one of the other things that's gone on over time is there have been a few ops that will insta-kill ops, or I don't know about mind control, but you used to be able to target heroes with some of that stuff, and just about everyone, I think, no longer can target heroes, so they don't need the status resists against that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a quiet nerf to heroes. If you can actually reasonably expect to hit them with inflicts going forward.
I mean, it's really interesting. It's going to make a big difference when you're actually fighting heroes, because I've always noticed like, oh, this hit chance or this effect chance is so low. Why is it so low? And then I like, you know, you couldn't really pull it apart, which
There
is I
is
think why it
diminishing
was in the game for
returns,
so
but
long.
you're still going to be going from, I don't know, like a 20 to 30% chance, probably to like a 50, 60% chance, something like that.
Mm-hmm. That's a big jump. Infantry commander is less good for them because they're mostly heavy units, although there is some use for it if you got some NPC faction units or something like that. Maybe.
And even just early clearing, you're starting with all of the T1s, so it might be to your advantage just to have it and know that it's not going to be a long-term boost, but on just your leader for your first 10, 15 turns.
Can't you get the heavy commander one though just as easily? Isn't it like
They do come at the
available?
same time, but the
Yeah.
problem is you start with free light units. You're not going to be starting with as many free heavy units.
Do we know that? Yeah, you start with 3?
I'm just saying your starting stack is
Okay.
aspirants, and then the protector I think is a large unit, so it wouldn't get the bonus.
Yeah.
But most of the secret tech units should be light.
Well, I thought the
I
purifier
don't
was
know
large
if some of
actually.
them are going into the big robots. That's gonna be
Well,
I think you get
Herod and
change the
Xenoplague
stack
for sure.
definition.
I don't know if we know about site number.
I think you get maybe 2 aspirants in your starting stack, and those might be the only like light infantry guys that can take infantry command or get a benefit.
The scout's going to be light, so
It's
that's 3
flying
units.
though, so it won't benefit from it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, right.
infantry.
So then it's going to be whether or not your secret tech is a light infantry unit or not.
Mm-hmm. It may be. There's some
It doesn't have to be a light
initiates or
infantry.
something.
It just has to be a light ground unit.
Okay, so again, Xeno ground, does that include floating? Does that apply to
It includes floating. It's
Okay.
anything that doesn't have the flying tag.
So Xeno and Herod for sure, and then we know not Promethean and not Celestian, because those are both vehicle variants. I don't think we know site number yet, do we?
Not yet. No, we don't know about them. That would be an interesting one. I want to see that robot because it sounds like an apostate, right? Right. How's that different?
Yeah,
That'd be
I
cool
don't
if
know.
they're like apostate looking.
Do we know what their hackers look like?
No, I don't think we got
So
much
there's
of
a
a look at
couple
the
of
stuff.
options in there.
I think you click through them in that one stream, but if you showed it off, I'm pretty sure we would have screenshotted it and included it in the last video. We got to see the Archer bot. Woohoo! Yay, Archer bot!
And then we immediately watched it die. Sad days.
Yeah, it didn't get to level up, unfortunately. It looked pretty cool though, right? The great bow does a bit of damage from I think range 5. I thought I took some pictures of its abilities. Yeah,
Yeah,
the great bow down here. I got this stuff here.
that is an interesting combination of abilities. It's short range, but it's single action, quite high damage. And then it's got the Huntress ignore cover. So I don't know. It feels like it's the oddball unit that Oathbound have. Like it doesn't quite fit in what the rest of they want to do.
Kind of like the assault bike of Vanguard.
Yeah, there may be a strategy in here if you are really good at manual combat and microing stuff, but I have a feeling the AI might be like, what do I do with this?
Yeah, well, I mean, they can always just fall back to they have what's essentially a 7-range grenade.
It's pretty
high
good,
impact
right?
AoE. That's not bad. Doesn't
Yeah.
destroy cover, but there isn't really any unit in the Oathbound roster that cares that much about cover. Most
Yeah.
of them are melee, and then the Warden explicitly doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
That's again another interesting defense mode. That's a new one.
Yeah, right. That looks pretty cool.
Not super powerful, but as something that you're going to be doing for free in the approach anyways. I guess you get one free turn of plus 200 morale, extra crit chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if
Or
you're
two turn.
guaranteeing crits though, the extra crit chance, like you said in the stream, it's like okay at a certain point that doesn't do me anything, right?
You can't crit everybody
Yeah.
because Providence looks like it's been limited to there's that hero secondary, which won't be very many units.
Mm-hmm.
There was one support unit that had it. I can't remember which one. Is there an op? We haven't really seen too much from the ops.
I think there probably is, if I had to guess. It seems right. It feels right when I think about it. Um,
So yes, having Sins just had to drop out for something.
no.
Um, but having better crit chance is always just good if it's on your whole army. Even if you can make specific units, always have it.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah, it's a shame we lost Sinsling there. But we don't have too much left. We're on page 10 of 13. There's the colony lord stuff we have in front of us. There's the reduced cost for all units, and then there's reduced cost for all structures. I think the units one is going to be really good if you unlock it early enough. Level 6 is
Yeah,
I don't know.
I always have never really done the structures, and it's sad that we did lose Sinsling because he's slowly been trying to convince people that he actually likes the structure cost reduction.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's some other places in the game where you can kind of choose between one or the other. Specifically
Devar.
the development tech, the T2. On your production sectors, you can choose between cheaper unit or more production, raw production, or just way cheaper buildings.
I see what
Anyways,
you mean. Yeah. Okay.
um,
Because
I
like
don't know.
that
I
benefit
think I'm
will
probably
pay
with
off.
you though. I think the 20% production on units is massively better.
Because units
And this
take
does
so
kind of
much
steer you
production,
towards.
man. It's kind of ridiculous. But you're saying it steers you towards.
You can kind of maybe assume at what the other higher tier upgrades for the colony load up boost might be. So if this is production, and then there was one that's tech, right?
Mm-hmm.
That one's probably going to be society tech and military tech.
Right.
And then the last one's energy. So that might be that one I'm less sure about. Upkeep and just raw generation. It doesn't seem like that would work the same.
Yeah.
But it's good. It is interesting for Oathbound that they get this decision of do they want to use hero skill points to make the heroes better, to make the stack better, or for economy. And that last step is one that no one else really has that equivalent decision.
I I feel like there may even be another step after this. Thinking about level 6 being a requirement, I could see there being a level 10 or a level 12 thing that's like really overpowered, crazy, good.
I don't want to have you hunt for it, but I didn't it say on the lower level one that it unlocked a couple, whereas these it doesn't.
Oh, okay. So maybe not.
I could be wrong about that. I'd have to check, but
I did see it. I don't
maybe
have
there's
it
one.
written here. That if you're playing Oathbound and you get other heroes from other races, they get these bonuses, the colony
Yeah,
lord
it's
bonuses.
that's on the choose race screen
Right.
along with their two boons, and they say, oh, you can also have your heroes lead cities. So that's probably one of the reasons why the long-term boon is so awful
Right.
because they get this instead.
I totally missed that though when they were going over this stuff. I think that's a really important detail that's easy to miss. What else is there to say here? per
More
unit.
UI changes. You get to see the production bonuses summarized.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Looks like, yeah,
atrophy is pretty good.
this thing's written, it says 1 hex radius and it's actually 2 hex radius, which is interesting because when it actually gets applied, it says 2 hex radius when they looked at the units, and that makes a lot more sense because it'd be hard to spread to 1 hex radius.
Well, and for 3 op points, atrophy's not that good.
Yeah.
I think you would want it to really force your opponent to have to debate his positioning, and AoE 1 is just not enough of a issue.
hmm But these, for certain sieges, I can see that being pretty nasty because it just kind of like spreads and spreads and spreads and spreads. You put it down in one area, you put it down in another area, and all of a sudden they can't support their units because they're all spread out across the map.
Well, and atrophy stacks.
hmm
Although it looks like for this, the atrophy spread doesn't transfer. It's still just that one unit that's going to be spreading it.
Oh, you think so? That would
I
make
mean
more
that,
sense.
yeah, that's what the op reads. And
Okay.
actually that's even what the inflict says too, right? The second
Yeah.
one over atrophy spread. This is different from the one that's in the dev diary, the Oathbound op, not the entropy weapon line op, but there's an Oathbound one, the butterfly effect. I think that one explicitly said that it also spreads that spreading effect.
hmm
But that also was further down the tier line, so.
Tom recommended you use Providence plus Last Stand, which you get from augurs on your leaders, because Last Stand lets your target stay alive. If they were to go below 1 health, they stay at 1 health, and then they actually heal up 20 after that. So it's kind of like the way Syndicate used their indentured, but they actually get a heal afterwards, which can
Mhm.
keep them in the fight for quite a bit longer, depending on how much like armor and shields you actually have on that unit.
And it
Um,
can go, you can apply it to anybody, whereas for the overseers only applying it to indentured can be a mixed bag. Because indentured aren't always a super scary unit to
it
be unkillable.
it reminds me of how Siphoners can just recharge anyone, and overseers have to use the action recharge on indentured. It's like, oh, if you're gonna give that to everyone else, maybe make it so overseers can do that with other units. I don't know.
Overseers are pretty good. And I mean, with that, it can't die. That's all bundled into the same ability, right? It gets the action reset, and it cannot die, and it cannot be staggered. So there's a lot going on with that specific ability when we're comparing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I actually am not entirely sure how strong just the part of that is, oh, you can't die for a turn is. In single player, yes, it's very good.
Yeah.
In multiplayer, there's ways around it with powered stuns or just staggers. And if all else fails, you just don't waste the damage.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's like
so
you're using a unit to make it harder for another unit to get damaged, and that means that you're taking up a lot of action point economy there that could be going to do other
yeah,
things.
so you're giving up your whole action to do something that might literally do nothing
Yeah.
if the opponent just decides to not shoot it. Which I'm sure is why that effect then goes on to heal for 20,
Mm-hmm.
because then at worst it's just like a heal, like a racial heal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, which a racial heal is a really good ability. So there's some judiciousness and win in how you use that. I don't know if that's as strong in multiplayer as it would be in single player when you can
Yeah.
force the AI to make bad damage decisions.
I was happy when Tom talked about turrets. He answered my question. This seems like really fun to play around with. I'm definitely gonna turtle up. I don't know about you.
I have no idea how good or bad that is. I feel like it's got to be better than the other racial turrets because usually they're not really big contributor to damage at all. Debatably, the Devour one is a net negative because it deals AoE damage.
Yeah.
Whereas for those banners, you worst case you're getting that precognition. So every turn that goes by, you're just getting free damage reduction.
Yeah, and that lasts until the end of the fight, right? So you could just like park a unit back for 2 turns, bring it forward, and now it's like, okay, it's gonna ignore 2 attacks.
Yeah, and so with 4 banners, if you're fighting a big 18 versus 18, that means, assuming these things are smart enough to target damaged units,
Yeah.
and I
It's gotta
don't
be
know
closest
what I
thing
should value
possible.
precognition as, but I mean, let's just throw out a number. Let's say precognition is also 8 to 10 hit points effectively of damage prevented. That means these banners are healing you for somewhere between 60 to 80 hit points a turn.
Yeah, you're right. It just says it targets a unit, not all units in the radius, which would be incredibly powerful. That's how I thought it worked at first, but no, 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 no. That'd be way too good. Um, Another thing we saw was Electrocutioner's secondary attack is now a single action. I
Now
think.
that is nuts. The Electrocutioner is, I mean, they've buffed it 2 or 3 times now. I actually think this time it's a crazy unit.
Yeah, I think people are gonna end up using it.
I mean, it's also got the extra defense stat too, right? That
Yeah.
bottom picture is wrong because I think there was armor stripping.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's pigs in the fight. If you go zoom up, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It had
So
more.
it's native
Nice.
45 and 2, which is amazing defense stats for a 7 range repeater at T2. And then the raw damage, I think, just had this debate with somebody. They do 1 less raw damage than the Bulwark does, but they have that Electrify Inflict, which is then adding in a 5 damage over time. So they're roughly the same damage as Bulwarks, but they're more survivable now. And instead of having that concuss that the Bulwark has, these guys get now this range 7 AoE grenade sort of thing.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, I sure if Ninja was here, he would be very excited to enthuse about the Electrocutioner.
Yeah, I'll be playing around with assembly for sure. Then hopefully getting the spacers nearby because it seems like those two got some nice buffs. But yeah,
Spaces have a couple little things. I still don't know if I was able to pull out everything or not, but a couple little quality of life changes for them to hopefully bring them to be.
I bet there's something we missed with like the preachers and stuff in the last stream, but I feel pretty good with the screenshots that I got here.
Oh, the high tier stuff was always fine. Like Melter's a scary unit, and the preachers can be a scary unit in the player's hands. It's always just been that psychos are a little bit squishy, and then the helicopters aren't super great. Trucks are good now, though. They got a damage boost, I think, in Tyrannosaurus.
All right.
16 to 18 or something, but
I think that's
yeah,
where
I'm
we'll
sure
wrap
there's
it up
going to
here,
be
right?
other little tweaks like that too. I'm sorry, what?
I was just gonna say I think that's where we'll wrap it up here because I don't have anything else underneath that.
Yeah. Again, it's been generally exciting stuff. Oathbound, as I've said already before, they're kind of right up my alley as a very melee-focused race. That's a playstyle that I enjoy. We're still missing a lot of kind of information how they might play from a multiplayer perspective, because so much of what matters is kind of that in the tech range of the T3 to T5 techs of what you can aim for that's powerful. So we haven't gone deep down the mod line. We don't super know all of the ops that are available yet. But their units certainly all seem like they're very capable.
Yeah.
I think they're T1 just by virtue of being that single action, decent damage, melee with a decent ranged option, makes them very strong. They have a value T1 mod as well, that Oath of Loyalty is just really good against many of the races in the game. and the protector looks like it's just an absolute linebacker unit. Big AoE heal, pretty good damage, really good defenses.
I'm glad you
So
mentioned a multiplayer because I'm thinking we'll start a new multiplayer as soon as we can. Maybe next weekend after the new content is out. So if people are interested in playing with us, they can join the Discord and shoot me a message. I'm not sure how many of the players I was playing the last round with will return. We'll probably have a good number of them in the new one, but we may need some new faces. But yeah, thanks for joining me here, Orange. I really appreciate it. As always, you're awesome to chat with.
yeah, and I'll say goodbye for Sinsling too.
Yeah,
Unavoidable, had to leave, but that happens sometimes.
if you're watching
And
this now,
yeah,
Sins, I appreciate it, bud.
we'll know the true answers in just a little under a week now. Tuesday, right?
It's so soon. Yay. Yeah, I'll post this up tomorrow and yeah, it'll be coming out in a couple days, basically 5 days after that, after tonight.
Yeah, and I'll probably try to do some patch note stuff by the end of the week. Because I'm sure there's always has been some little interesting stuff hiding in there. And I mean, most of the races we haven't seen anything about. We've seen a little bit, well, quite a bit for Assembly, but we don't know if Syndicate's been changed, Amazon's, Devour, Kyuko. So lots of question marks yet.
I'll leave that
And
to
just
you.
the free stuff.
You can make all the analysis. I'll make some other videos on like residential sectors. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, good to talk with you, and we'll see how things go on Tuesday.
Yeah, sounds good.